the silence in this piece, I think, was so effective because it really allowed me to, yeah, immerse myself in these images, let them roll over me, and held space for the viewer's projection onto them as well, which I think is excellent. Um, it made those great visual metaphors uh, very deeply felt and very viscerally felt, especially the scratching at the face, the picking off each of the thorns. It was a great meditation on texture and an object's relation to the body and the home object's relation to the body. Just really powerful connection to the inside environment and that very juxtapositional contradiction of what's wild and what is tamed, between the human and the natural world and the controlled world. So it's a really great meditation on what role the human plays anymore. What part are we animal and what part are we tamed beast? How deeply do we succumb to the rules and the rituals of daily domestic life? And what do we lose in that?
It kind of reminded me of installations within an art gallery, and they're kind of like performance art, or there's art through the visuals. So I thought that was really cool how it was done. I liked the effect of having it be a silent film, despite the actions being very loud, and having that dissonance, and then seeing it again at the end with the sounds coming back in. I thought that was a really cool choice in the editing.
When I'm watching films, I always notice the music, and the first thing that jumped at me here was the lack of it. This piece had no music and very minimal sound too. I've never seen anything like this, but it was so effective, especially when paired with those extreme close-ups, like when he's biting the thorns off the roses, for example. It made for such an uneasiness and discomfort. That paired with the title cards and the facts, it really contributed to the overall story.
The quote in the beginning is so disturbing. It kind of sets the stage for the rest of the film. I loved how everything was in neutral colors, except for the yellow roses. I thought that that was a really great touch on the set designers and the writer's point of view, the cinematographer. Great choices there with the whole lighting of the piece, all the different camera angles too. I think that they did a brilliant job with all of the angles and the way that this was edited. It was absolutely great. They used silence beautifully. I loved those moments where they knew how to incorporate silence.
It was really modern. It was a really unique take on this concept of domestication and, the background provided at the beginning of the piece. And it was a really unique view. I think he did a great job of highlighting visuals and audio in a segmented, very shot for shot way, especially with the plates crashing at the end and this feeling of uneasiness surrounding these items that symbolize domestication. It was a really unique way to tell this story and this perspective that I haven't seen before, in a really cinematic and artistic way.
I kind of really appreciated you guys providing this sort of context in the beginning, and I just thought it was such a unique interpretation of that context, that you guys kind of created this whole visual interpretation of it. And I think what was most interesting to me was the amount of close-up shots. I think that was super interesting in capturing a lot of the small details throughout the film. And the way you kind of used sound but also didn't use sound was super unique. And then the ending, which is like having all the plates crashing at the end, I thought that was super interesting. And it was just a really, unique and avant-garde film.
Felt like it was more of an experiment in like silence and using the different elements, with the camera, the eyes being closed and then showing us darkness, and then we could hear the plates. So the silence and then the sound and the playing with the visual, the colors with the flowers. All the acting was very subtle and very good.
But
it was so muted and there wasn't a ton of noise that was happening. And then going back and forth between her and how she was not just reacting to what was the same environment, but also like her behavior and then switching to him and his behavior and his environment, which was the same setup, the same general place, but obviously it was a little bit different. Um, and just the going back and forth, I thought was so well done. And it was so interesting to watch. I found myself like hooked, like waiting, like what's gonna happen next, what's gonna happen next, just because I found it so intriguing how they had set everything up with the premise itself.